Today I'm upgrading my 1991 Giant Rincon with V-brakes. We're going to be changing from cantilever brakes over to V-brakes. What am I going to get out of this? Better stopping power, easier adjustments, and I get to explain it step by step so you can follow along. Before you dig into this little project, you need to be aware that it's more than just switching out the actual brake arms. You also need to check out getting some new levers. V-brakes use a different pull rate as compared to cantilever brakes. So as you're shopping for those V-brakes to upgrade your bike, be aware you also need to get new levers. So step one is taking off your old cantilever brakes. We're going to start out on the rear brakes. It's simply removing the brake boss bolts. We'll do this on both sides. I'm also going to remove my reflector here. Keep this nut and bolt assembly here. Start removing my cable, housings. Now is a good time to do a little bit of cleaning. If you've got rust on your bosses, it's a perfect time to clean everything off. These are looking pretty good, so we're going to just get some soap and water. The blue paint really pops once you get this cleaned up a little bit. I know that's going to rattle later on, so we're going to either remove it fully, which I think is what I'm going to do. Alright, with everything cleaned up, I'm going to apply just a tad bit of grease to the brake bosses. Doesn't take much. I'll also put just a tad bit inside. With everything greased up, it's time to put our brake arms on the bosses. So I like to put the pin in the center hole. It gives me the best shot at the correct spring tension. Sorry about the focus there. Before we can get it to fall off, I'm going to lightly screw our bolt in. Let's go to the next side with our stirrup on it. Got the pin. I'm going to drop that in to the center hole. Like so. Got spring tension. Let's get our bolt. 5mm wrench. This is like the fun part, right? We're basically got V-brakes on the bike at this point. What I'll typically do is put the brake pads on loose. Next step. All right, got that tight. Let's do a little shift here. All right, give that a good little pull. Make sure it's on. Double check that everything is moving freely. Pretty even pressure out of the box here, side to side. Let's put our brake pads on loose. All right, so I've got my curve. Go for the rim. This is the direction of the tire. And then I'm going to put my brake arm into that spot right there. So if you've got 3 hands, this is a lot easier, but I try to get everything stacked in one hand, turn up, loosely put it on, put like so. I'm not going to go crazy because I'm going to do some further adjustments in a little bit. All right, I'm striking the tire rim good, pretty centered on there. Let's do the other side. Again, the tire's going to be going this way. All right. Next up, we get to put our levers on. Let's move you around. So I'll take one of my hex wrenches, wedge it underneath my little bit of soapy water, spray that in. A lot of times I can just break it loose. That soapy water gets that grip right off. Gotta move my shifter out of the way a little bit. So we got our cable off already, so taking the whole assembly out. Now it's time to install our V-brake compatible lever assembly. Just got a generic ergo grip. Tighten it down. Put our shifter back into position. Let's line up our slots. Now we're ready to cut some housing. So I got a piece here. I'm not sure if it's going to be long enough or it might be too long actually. Like so. That actually looks pretty good. I think I might change the ferrule end. Got one of these plastic ends on. I'm going to swap that out for a metal one. So I like to screw the barrel adjusters all the way in when I start a little brake job like this. All right, for this next one, probably going to need my noodle. So it's going to go from about here back to here. Definitely need to cut it. My end's pretty clean there, which is what we want. I like to clean the end out with just a little block of wood with a nail that I sharpened in there. So in the noodle end, we don't need a ferrule end. Sorry about the focus here, but I'm just putting the brake cable in, lining up the slots, and threading it through the barrel adjuster. Got a little tri-flow. So I lube up the rear housing, the noodle, and then I thread the cable through. Don't forget the boot. And then thread your cable through the locking bolt. I tighten it up about finger tight and then move on to adjusting the actual tension. So when I get to this point, I like to draw my brakes together. My pads are in. I want you to see this. I know that at my brake lever, I've screwed that barrel adjuster all the way in at this point. I'm tight to the rim. I'm going to just back this up about that much. So about right around 8 millimeters. I'm not going to reef down on it, but I'm going to get an understanding of my brake travel. Actually would like it a little bit tighter. Open it up. Now if you can see at my handle, my brake lever, more than 2 fingers up here. Plus I've got room on my barrel adjuster to add more, so that's about the tension. So that's about where I want my cable. Let me give it a little bit more of a tighten. All right, I want you to see I am not moving evenly. Spring tension screws are probably my culprit here. Remember, I've got everything is lubed up real well, the cable, the pivots. So right now I can just play with my tensioning screw. I'm going to increase the tension on this side by about turn it in half. 1 1/2. I'm starting to get a little bit of movement here. I'm going to loosen on this side just a hair. There's half a turn. A little bit more on this side. All right, about a full turn. We're getting there. A lot more movement here. About 3/4 of a turn. I'm going to back this one out about a half a turn. I'm looking really good there. In fact, I want to tighten up my cable a little bit more. Now I don't have my brakes perfectly placed yet, but I'm pretty close. All right, so remember we're only finger tight here. I'm going to loosen it up just a tad. Move it into position. Now I'm using my finger to hold all the way across. Get it into the position where I'm centered on the rim, but I'm not going to touch the tire. Give you a close-up. So I'm liking that. I'm going to do this side. Pulling evenly on both sides. My brake pads are where they want to be. I'm going to do some double checks on my tightening. We're in the home stretch of our installation of our brakes. I'm going to clip it off about 3 inches down. I like to be able to tuck it back underneath about like so. It's 3.5-ish inches. So that's our conversion from cantilever to V-brakes. I'm going to do the front real quick and we'll recap. First up, I removed the reflector. Then I clipped off the cable and removed the caliper arms. It's a perfect chance to clean 35 years of grime and grit off the bike. I applied a little bit of grease to the brake bosses. Next, I slid on the caliper arms and the brake lever and grips. With the brake arms on, I installed the bolts and then loosely installed the brake pads. Then from there we get to size up and cut the cable housings. I installed the new cable and squirted in a little bit of tri-flow lubricant. From there we tensioned the cable by adjusting it at the cable locking bolt. Then we get into the fun part, centering the brake arms by adjusting the spring tension screws. Remember, backing out loosens the tension, allowing the brake pad closer to the rim. Tightening the screw pulls the brake pad away from the rim. Now that we have the pads centered, next I tighten the pads into position. Along the way, I'll continually test the brakes to make sure they're working well and make little adjustments. Finally, I clipped the cable and crimped on an end cap. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed to watch this 35-year-old mountain bike transformed into a comfortable daily commuter. And as always, keep pedaling.